All right, ready to dive into something pretty cool. Today, we're going to prep you for an enterprise development worker interview.
Ooh, yeah, those are the folks who help businesses, make a real impact, but also keep their employees happy.
Exactly. It's like a superhero for company culture. A&D the community all at once.
Love that.
So to help us get ready, we've got this career guide, some awesome interview tips.
Out.
Oh, and we'll even sprinkle in some tips about how RoleCatcher's AI can help you just nail this thing. Ready?
Let's do it.
So first things first, what exactly do these enterprise development workers do all day?
Right.
The guide mentions a pretty diverse work environment.
Totally. It really is all about bridging that gap between, doing good and making sure the business is doing well too.
Hmm.
And our career guide, it highlights how vital employee well-being is to a company's success.
Yeah.
And these folks, they're the champions of that.
Right.
So one day you might be like, in the office, crunching numbers, looking at data.
Right?
The next day you're out in the field, meeting with community partners, or even working remotely.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's definitely dynamic, requires you to be adaptable, and you've got to have some strong communication skills.
Yeah, that flexibility is definitely appealing to me, at least.
Mm.
But the guide also mentions the potential for high stress and burnout.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you need a certain personality type to really thrive in that role.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where that self-awareness is super key. The guide even suggests some coping strategies for dealing with the demands of the job. Things like setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about passion, it's about making it sustainable too.
I guess even superheroes need their downtime.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're feeling good about the role, ready to tackle the interview. Where do we even begin?
Well, they're going to want to know about your experience, of course. A classic question. Describe your experience in enterprise development.
Okay, so how do you make your answers stand out from the crowd? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's going to have some experience to talk about.
It's all about showcasing how your past experiences, directly relate to this specific job you're applying for. So let's say you volunteered for an organization that was all about fair trade. You could talk about how you helped local businesses implement those ethical sourcing strategies.
Mhm.
And then, what impact did that have both on the community, but also employee morale?
I see. So it's not just listing what you did. It's about highlighting the impact
Exactly.
and connecting it back to the company's value.
Exactly. And this is actually where RoleCatcher's AI can be a really big help.
Ooh, okay.
Their platform can actually analyze the job description and then help you tailor your answer to hit those key points that those hiring managers they're looking for.
That's super helpful, especially if
Yeah.
you're, applying for multiple jobs, all a little bit different.
Oh, for sure. And another common question you'll probably encounter is, how do you stay up to date with, all the enterprise development trends? Best practices,
Yeah.
all that.
I can already feel the pressure. So it's not enough to just do the work. You have to be, on top of everything, too.
You've got to be a lifelong learner, always seeking new knowledge. And the guide, it emphasizes going beyond just, reading the industry publications.
Okay.
Think about attending conferences, participating in workshops, or even engaging in online forums. Think about, what genuinely interests you within this field, and then how can you, actively pursue those interests.
So instead of just saying, oh, I read industry blogs, you could say, I'm really passionate about sustainable business practices, and I recently went to this cool conference on the circular economy, and now I'm trying out some of those principles in my own work.
Now you're talking. That shows initiative and a real, genuine desire to grow. And you know what? RoleCatcher has a feature that keeps you updated on all those industry trends.
Oh, nice.
It even recommends relevant resources. So it's like having a personal development coach, right in your pocket.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've really impressed them with your experience and your passion for learning. What's next?
Now be ready to showcase those successes.
Okay.
They might ask you to provide an example of a successful enterprise development project that you've worked on.
Oh, this is where those star stories come in handy, right?
Yeah.
Situation, task, action, result.
Exactly.
Okay, nailed it.
Choose a project that shows off your problem-solving skills and positive impact. So let's say you were in charge of an initiative to improve employee mental health at your last company. You could talk about how you noticed the need, how you implemented a mindfulness program, and what were those positive results.
And I bet RoleCatcher has a feature for, organizing those star stories.
Oh, you bet. They have a My Experiences section where you can save all those stories and then tailor them for different interview situations.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like having this whole library of, success stories just ready to go.
That is so cool. Okay, so They're probably going to ask about a time you had to overcome a challenge in an enterprise development project, right?
This is where they're testing your resilience.
Okay.
Can you think on your feet? The guide recommends choosing a challenge that really highlights your adaptability and problem-solving skills. So maybe you were working on this community outreach project, and suddenly you had to deal with unexpected budget cuts.
Oh, that's tough.
Right. So talk about how you had to, like, completely rethink your strategy, maybe negotiate some new partnerships, but then you still managed to hit your goals even with way fewer resources.
So it's not about pretending that, nothing ever goes wrong.
Right.
It's about showing how you navigate those tricky situations.
Exactly. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI feedback can help you, polish your answer and make sure you're highlighting those key skills that they're looking for.
Before we move on to, even more interview questions, I'm curious, what are some common misconceptions about this role?
Oh, yeah.
It feels like there's a lot more to it than, what you see on the surface.
Yeah, many people think it's all about, charity work or social activism.
Right, right.
But really, it's about finding creative solutions that benefit, both the business and the community. It requires strategic thinking, strong analytical skills, and this, deep understanding of both social and economic issues.
Makes sense. It's not just good intentions. It's about creating solutions that actually work.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to those interview questions. What else should our listeners be ready for?
All right, be prepared to talk about your experience working with diverse communities. They might just straight up ask you.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And this is all about showing your cultural sensitivity. Can you build trust with a wide range of stakeholders?
So it's not enough to just say, oh, I'm inclusive. You got to back it up with some real examples.
Totally. Think about times where you had to adapt your communication style, bridge cultural differences, or advocate for the needs of, groups that are often marginalized. The guide, it suggests using those specific anecdotes, really paint the picture.
So you could talk about a time you worked with a community organization and maybe they served mostly immigrants. And you could explain how you learned about their challenges, how you included their perspectives in the project, and made sure their voices were heard.
Now, that's a great example. It shows that you understand how important cultural competency is and that you've actually got experience navigating those, complex social situations.
This is starting to feel a bit overwhelming, I gotta say. How can our listener keep track of all this and prepare for such different types of questions?
And that is where RoleCatcher comes in again. You can actually practice answering these questions and get AI-powered feedback on your responses. It's like having, a personal coach who can point out your strengths and weaknesses.
That's cool. Okay, so we've covered a good number of interview questions, but I'm sure there's more.
Oh, yeah. They might ask you to explain how you actually measure the success of a project.
Okay.
So this is where those social impact metrics are super important. They want to see that you can go beyond just the feel-good stories.
Right.
Can you actually show some tangible results?
Okay, so what are some examples of social impact metrics? That term could mean a lot of different things.
Totally depends on the project. But the guide, it suggests using a mix of methods, like surveys to see how satisfied employees are, tracking, key performance indicators related to productivity, or maybe even doing some cost-benefit analyses to show the financial impact of what you're doing.
So instead of just saying oh, the project was a success, you could say, we started this new work-life balance program, and as a result, employee turnover decreased by 15%. And overall productivity went up 10%.
Now you're getting it. Data is your friend here.
Okay.
It shows that you're not just making stuff up, you're actually measuring what you're doing.
Love it.
Makes a difference. Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for round 2.
Hit me with it. What other challenging questions do we need to, really prepare for?
Oh, right. Get ready for this one. How do you assess the needs of a community for enterprise development?
Ooh, that sounds intense. How do you even begin to answer that?
This is where they're looking for those analytical skills.
Right.
And, your understanding of how communities actually work. The guide suggests taking a structured approach.
Okay.
Don't just rely on assumptions. You've got to use different tools and methods.
So conducting surveys, organizing focus groups, and analyzing data to really understand the community's strengths, weaknesses, the whole picture.
Exactly. And don't forget to connect your assessment back to potential business solutions. How could a company address those specific needs that you've identified?
Right. So it's not just about pointing out problems, it's about coming up with solutions. What about those tricky questions about, working with others, like how do you develop partnerships with organizations to support enterprise development?
Ah, partnerships. Those are like crucial in this role. They're looking for your ability to build those relationships, and make them last.
Yep.
Explain how you identify potential partners, how you establish trust, and how you create like these win-win collaborations, where everyone's needs are met.
So it's about more than just networking. It's about really understanding what each partner brings to the table.
Exactly. It's about finding that common ground, those shared goals.
The guide mentioned something about building a coalition of, like, local businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies.
Oh, yeah, like to support a job training program.
Could you talk about that a bit more?
Sure. Imagine you have to create a program that trains people for those, in-demand jobs. You might partner with businesses to provide internships. Then you work with nonprofits to offer like those extra support services and collaborate with government agencies to, secure that funding. So it's this beautiful collaboration where everyone benefits.
That's a really great example. Okay, so last time we talked about RoleCatcher's My Experiences feature. Does their AI have anything to offer for, building those partnerships?
You bet. Their platform actually has this networking feature.
Oh, cool.
Helps you keep track of all your connections and even suggests like potential partners based on what you're interested in and your goals.
Wow, that's really helpful. What other tough questions should we be ready for?
Ooh, get ready for this one. How do you prioritize those competing demands in a project?
Oh, boy. That sounds like, a project manager's worst nightmare.
It's all about staying organized, focused, and making, tough decisions sometimes. The guide suggests using different methods like project management software to, keep track of those deadlines. You could also use a prioritization matrix to figure out what's urgent, what's important, and then having a clear communication system with your team so everyone's in the loop.
So if I were in the hot seat, I might say something like, I use a combination of project management tools and, regular team meetings to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And I make sure to communicate any, like, changes or roadblocks right away.
Perfect. That shows you're proactive, organized, and a strong communicator.
Speaking of communication, what about leadership? How would you answer, like, how do you manage a team of enterprise development professionals?
Woo, that's a big one, especially if you're going for a more senior role.
Yeah.
They want to see your leadership style. Can you motivate a team? The guide emphasizes empowering your team members, delegating responsibility, and making sure they have what they need to succeed.
So it's not about, micromanaging.
No.
It's about creating that environment where everyone feels valued.
Exactly. You want to create a culture where people are actually excited to come to work and contribute their ideas. And, RoleCatcher can actually analyze how you answer this question.
Oh, cool.
It gives feedback on how to project confidence in leadership. And it can even suggest areas where you could, improve your communication style.
So it's like having a virtual leadership coach who can give you personalized feedback.
Precisely. Now, before we jump back into more interview prep, I want to touch on career progression. Our guide has some great insights into those different stages of an enterprise development worker's career.
Yes. I'm curious to hear about, like, the path from entry level to, those senior positions. What changes?
Well, at the entry level, you're probably assisting with, developing and implementing initiatives, working with communities and customers, and helping to improve that work-life balance.
Okay.
You'll be doing lots of research, analyzing data, collaborating with your team. It's a great chance to learn the ropes.
What does a senior enterprise development worker's day look like?
As you move up, you'll take on those leadership roles. You might lead big initiatives, form those strategic partnerships, advise senior management. You might even manage budgets and develop those big strategies to create a real impact.
Wow, that sounds pretty impressive. What kind of qualifications and experience do you need to reach that level?
The guide mentions that, senior folks often have a master's degree or even a PhD in things like social entrepreneurship,
Okay.
organizational development, maybe social innovation. They've also got a proven track record of success, leading projects, building those partnerships, and actually getting results.
It seems like constantly learning and developing professionally is like a must in this field.
Oh, absolutely. The guide really emphasizes staying on top of trends, learning new skills, and showing off what you've accomplished, maybe through presentations or even, sharing your knowledge with others.
I bet RoleCatcher has some resources for that too, right?
You bet. They've got tons of career guides, skill guides, and even a feature to track your professional development progress, like having a personal career counselor right there.
Amazing. Okay, so we've talked about entry-level and senior positions, but what about the steps in between?
Well, you might start as a coordinator or an assistant, then move into a project management role, and then, eventually take on more of those leadership positions. The specific titles and responsibilities, they'll change depending on the organization, but the general path is pretty similar.
Okay.
Focus on building your skills, expanding your network, and showing your dedication to making a difference.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense. What other insights does the guide have about career growth in this area?
Mentorship and networking, super important. Finding a mentor who can guide you and connect you with the right people can make a huge difference. And building a strong network of peers and colleagues, it helps you stay informed, share ideas, and even collaborate.
So it's not just what you know, but who you know.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's networking feature can connect you with potential mentors. It's like a matchmaker for your career.
Okay, this has been so helpful. I'm starting to really understand what it takes to be successful as an enterprise development worker. Welcome back. So we've covered a ton about becoming an enterprise development worker, from understanding the role to, acing those interview questions.
Yeah, we've even peeked into the future of this whole field and seen how tech, like RoleCatcher's AI, can give you a serious boost in your job search.
Totally. It's been a lot, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, let's zoom out for a sec. Big picture time. What are some key takeaways you think our listeners should really hold on to?
I think at the core, this role is about making positive change happen. It's about that sweet spot where business success and social impact, they meet. It's not just about profits, it's about making a difference for employees and communities.
Yeah, that really connects with, our learner persona, all about growth, making a real contribution.
Exactly. This role lets you combine that passion for doing good with, your business smarts. And we've seen how moving up in this field, it's all about continuous learning, building those networks, and showing what you've accomplished.
Speaking of accomplishments, I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges these workers face? The world's changing so fast.
That's a great question. One challenge is definitely keeping up with tech, especially how it's impacting the workplace. With all this automation and AI, enterprise development workers need to be able to, adapt, find new ways to bring value to both the business and the employees.
So it's not just using the latest tools, it's understanding the bigger picture,
Right.
right? Making sure tech is used ethically to help people.
Exactly. Another challenge is navigating all the, complex political and social stuff happening. Enterprise development workers are often right in the middle of groups with different interests. It takes some serious communication skills, negotiation, and being able to resolve conflicts to build consensus and drive change.
It sounds like you need a unique mix of empathy, strategic thinking, understanding people, and the business side of things.
You nailed it. It's definitely challenging, but super rewarding if you're passionate about making a difference.
Well said. And for our listeners ready to get started, check out RoleCatcher's platform. Those AI-powered tools and all their resources, they can be super helpful for your job search and your career growth.
I totally agree. RoleCatcher can help you tailor your resume, practice for interviews, and even find mentors and employers. It's like a personal career coach right there on your phone.
I love that. So as we wrap this up, what's a final thought we can leave our listeners with? Something to really ponder.
With tech changing so rapidly, how will it shape the future of enterprise development? Will AI help create those hyper-personalized work-life balance programs? Will automation free up people to focus on more creative work? And most importantly, how do we make sure these technologies are actually promoting good and helping people?
Those are some big questions.
Yeah.
It seems like this whole field is just going to get more complex and more exciting as we go.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there who's passionate about making a real difference, this field is just full of possibilities.
So well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you got some great insights and feel inspired. And remember, whether you're just starting out or looking for a change, the world needs passionate people like you to build a better future.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference.
Yeah.